In past weeks, we have learned the importance of wudhu spiritually and in terms of its validation. Both aspects we've learned. We've also learned the faraid of wudhu. We have also learned the sunnah of wudhu. Today, inshallah, we will learn the mustahabat of wudu. Mustahabat means we've learned, right? Mustahab means desirable. Desirable acts. If you do them, subhanallah, it will put cherry on the cake, like beautify your wudu. Those acts which have been done as the part of the wudu to beautify the wudu, the spiritual effect of that will be that inshallah you will be able to keep your wudu for a longer time. That is the spiritual aspect of wudu. So there are approximately 29 mustahabat of wudu according to Ahnaf. Number 1, to face the qibla. When we make wudu to face towards qibla, it is a mustahab act, desirable act. If you do not face, it doesn't invalidate your wudu, but it is mustahab and desirable act to face towards the qibla. To do wudu on an elevated seat to a higher place means water which you are using, it could be little bit below you and you are sitting on a higher place. It is mustahab. While wudu can be done while you are sitting. So if you sit and make wudu, it is mustahab. Some of us, we stand and make wudu. But if you sit down and make wudu, it is mustahab. Number 4, to wipe your hands over the body parts while washing them. We've already learned the difference between wiping and washing. According to Ahnaf, every single body part which consists of fara'id act has to be washed, and there is a part which has to be wiped. For example, washing of face. When we do masah, then it is wiping, it's not washing. So the condition of washing is that each body part which has to be washed, at least 2 drops of water must flow on that body part. That is the condition of washing, not wiping. So to wipe your hands over the body parts while washing them means when you put water on your face, don't just put the water and leave it. You can put the water and then make sure you wipe as well. Washing and wiping both. Number 5, to do wudu calmly. Take your time, do not rush, and make sure that each and every part is properly washed and you do not leave any dry patches. Number 6, to moisten the body parts of wudu before washing them, especially in winter. To moist them means that pre-wash. We call it pre-wash. So just before washing it, just go over it and then wash it. So the water will be able to flow more easily and it will not leave any dry patches. Number 7, to avoid taking assistance from anyone else without necessity. So as long as we are able to make wudu ourselves, we must not take assistance from anyone. That is a mustahab act, desirable act. If you do take assistance, then no problem. Number 8, to rinse your mouth using your right hand. When we rinse your mouth, we can use our right hand put water in the right hand and put it in your mouth rather than using the left hand. You can use both hands as well, whatever is easy for you. But if you use your right hand, it is not only mustahab, but it is also the sunnah of some of the Sahaba Kiram to use right hand when you rinse your mouth. Number 9, to sniff water into your nose using your right hand. Normally we take water and we just put it inside the water. But the right way of cleansing your nose is take water and sniff inside little bit. Not so much that it goes in your brain. Little bit, which covers at least half of your nose. And then put these 2 fingers inside and clean it properly. That is a mustahab act. Number 10, to use your left hand to clean your nose. As I said, right hand, sniff water. When water goes inside, use the left hand, these 2 fingers, thumb and the small finger, to clean your nose properly. Make sure everything is clean inside. Number 11, to insert your small left finger into your nose. Same thing which we've just discussed. Number 12, to moisten the back of your neck using the backs of your fingers. One of the brothers asked when we were making masah that how about cleaning the neck. So it is from mustahab act to go over your neck from back of your hand. The fingers, back of the fingers. So when you make masah and when you're done, then back of your hand is still wet. So use that to go over your neck. It is mustahab. If you do, it's rewardable. But if you do not go over your neck, it does not invalidate your wudhu. So wiping the neck, it is from mustahab. It is not part of the masah. But it is just desirable to clean your neck. Number 13, to insert your wet small fingers into your ear openings while wiping your ears. So another part of masah when we do it. So after wiping over your neck, your fingertips are still wet. So you can put them inside and then whatever thumb wetness that you have on your thumb, go over the back of the neck. So that is also a mustahab act. If you do not clean your ear, it does not nullify your wudu, but it is something mustahab. So masah is fard, compulsory. At least one part, 1/4 of the head you must go over. But as far as neck and ear is concerned, it is mustahab to wipe over them. Number 14, to move any ring you may be wearing if it is loose and you are certain that water has flowed beneath it. However, if the ring is tight, then moving it is mandatory, fard, in order to ensure the flow of water beneath it. So if you have a ring, maybe your nikah ring or whatever ring you are wearing, then if it is loose, completely loose, which is moving easily, then it's fine. It is mustahab to move it, desirable to move it. But if your ring is tight, then it is mandatory to move it, compulsory to move it to ensure the flow of the water in that area. Number 15, to do wudhu before the time of salah actually begins if you are not a mazur. Mazur means that Sharia approves you to become amongst those who have a valid reason, who can make wudu right at the beginning of the Jamaat time. So it is mustahab to make wudu in advance. In fact, it is sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make wudhu in advance, well in advance of salah time. For a person who performs wudhu perfectly, to become amongst those who make wudhu in a perfect manner, ensures that my wudhu, his heart and his mind is satisfied that I have made wudhu properly. Normally we rush to make wudhu, and we do not pay attention that if our wudhu is valid or not. Wudhu is very important. Without wudhu our salah is nullified. So we must be amongst those who are satisfied. Number 17, to keep your eye towards the left side of your body. If you use dish, pot for wudu, means that make sure that if you are not using tap, and if there is a pot that you are using water from, then your eyes should remain closed. To go water inside, it is not amongst the mustahabat. Only the outer area of the eye, it can be used. And that can be done by closing your eyes. So when you close the eyes, and if you wash your face, and if the water doesn't go inside the eye, that doesn't invalidate your wudu. In fact, it is from mustahab not to let the water go inside your eye. To wash your face using both hands. So taking water from the tap and putting water on your face and going over it, it is from mustahabat act. To start from your fingers and toes when washing your hands and feet. So starting from the toes when you're washing your feet, making sure all the spaces between them you go through with your fingers, and the dry patches do not remain inside. Every bit of your feet is washed properly, and same goes to the hands. You use one hand on top of another one and make sure that these dry patches, they do not remain dry. Water must go through it. And this will happen when you make your wudu, when you take your time. When you rush, definitely some part will remain dry. So at least 5 minutes before Jamaat, when you make wudu, then you will make wudu in a manner which your heart and your mind will be satisfied. To ensure you have the intention of wudu while is washing or wiping each body part. Sometimes we don't even know we're making wudu. We are in that much rush. We completely unaware of what part we are washing. So that intention should remain in your heart. I am making wudu for this particular salah. So intention is very important. It is mustahab to recite Salat an-Nabi and Kalima Shahadat in addition to Bismillah at the beginning. So if you pray Durood on Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or if you pray Bismillah before making your niyyah, then it is mustahab. It validates your wudu in a very good manner, makes your wudu more stronger in spiritual side. In fact, these are all the sunnah of Sahaba Kiram. Whatever I have mentioned, while I'm reading it, I can recall some Sahabi who has performed these actions. And Sahabas have not just performed an action just like that, unless they have seen from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or have been advised by Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that you should do this, you should do this. Do not unnecessarily wipe your washed body parts. If you do, then avoid totally drying them. Sometimes what happens after, for example, washing your hands, we have habit of keep doing this. Do not unnecessarily do it. Leave the water on your body. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala have created such heating system in your body that even if you do not wipe with the towel, in a few minutes your body parts will be dry. There is good insulation system in the body which will evaporates the water. So do not unnecessarily keep wiping over your body parts. Number 28. Sprinkle water on the front private area of your trouser. When sprinkling water on this area of your trouser, it is advisable to hide the front of your trouser under your t-shirt. Sprinkling water, it is sunnah of Hazrat Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He used to do it because at the time there used to be a lot of dust and a lot of sand that used to come along with the clothes. So just to let that dust sit in the cloth rather than when performing salah, then it's flying everywhere. So you used to sprinkle water. It does not apply at the moment, at this time, but it is just sunnah of some sahabas to do. But it is at the same time, it is mustahab act. If you do it, it is good. If you do not do it, it does not invalidate your wudu. The final one, to offer 2 rakat nafl salah after wudu if it is not makruh time. These nawafils are called tahiyyatul wudu. Just as we perform tahiyyatul masjid, just as there is tahiyyatul wudu, if we have enough time, then performing 2 rakat nafl just to be grateful in the court of Allah that you have been able to make wudu. It is ni'mat of Allah. There are people who don't find water to make wudu, and we are amongst those who have water and such facilities. So to be thankful in the court of Allah, we can pray 2 rakat nawafil, and that is the 29th mustahabat of wudu. All these acts which we've learned, these are mustahabat, and it does not invalidate your wudu. If you do them, subhanallah. If you do not do them, no problem. Now moving on to the makruhat of wudu. This is important. If you keep repeating a makruh act, this can invalidate your wudu. Means there is no confirmation and certainty that your wudu is valid. It could be invalid. There is always a doubt that your wudu is valid. So makruhat are very important. Pay attention to this. Number 1, to sit in an impure place for wudu. The place which is impure, where you can easily see impurity, and if you still sit on that place and make wudu, that is not logical. At the same time, when you put water, wash your body parts, the impurity will go on your clothes. So for logical reason, we should not sit where there is impurity. We should find something dry, and we should find somewhere which is not impure. Now sand and mud, it's not regarded as impurity. Impurity is clearly if you see that some animal have relieved themselves, or maybe there is some sort of blood over there, or urine that you find. This is impurity. So sand and mud is not counted as impurity. It's not impure. Dust is not impure. Then number 2, to allow the wudu water to drop on an impure place. Same thing, that if you are sitting on an impure place, then do not allow to, if you had no choice but to sit there. Now you are sitting there and making wudu. Of course it is a makruh act, but it does not invalidate your wudu if it is one-off. You are in a place where you have to make wudu there. If you don't, then you won't be able to make wudu. then you can, but at the same time try your level best not to let the wudu water drop on the floor, so that the impurity comes back on your clothes. That is the reason behind that. Number 3, to allow water droplets from your wet body parts to drop into the water. So if you are making wudu from the pot or some sort of holding area of water, then keep it little bit far. If you're taking water from it and you're washing your hands and same water is dropping inside the pot, then it is called used water. Used water, you cannot make wudu with it. It invalidates your wudu. So keep the pot little bit far, take it out and perform your wudu. Make sure that even the droplets don't go inside that pot. Number 4, to spit saliva in the water or in the direction of Qibla. Spitting is a habit when we make wudu. So spitting in the direction of Qibla or in the same water you are making wudu from, it is makruh. It is a disliked act. If you keep repeating it as a habit, then it will invalidate your wudu. We should not spit towards the direction of Qibla. There are a number of ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam which prohibits us to prolong our feet towards the Qibla and to spit towards the direction of Qibla. So it is amongst the makruhat to spit our saliva towards the direction of Qibla or in the water that we are making wudu from. Unnecessary worldly talk. Coming back to the question a brother asked the other day, are we allowed to talk while making wudu? So if it is something necessary, then no problem. If it is unnecessary worldly talk, maybe you're talking about a game, football game, who done well, how many goals, my team won, your team lost, making jokes, these sort of activities are counted amongst the makruhat of wudu. It does not invalidate your wudu if it is one-off or if it is not repeated every single time. So remaining quiet while making wudu, it is something which is desirable. We should not do it. Number 6, to use excessive water while making wudu. Using excessive water while making wudu is amongst the strong makruhat of wudu. This is disliked by none other than our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wasting of water. I've personally seen brothers just to get hot water, forget their own taps, they will on 4-5 taps next to them just so that they can get hot water. Nabi Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam have mentioned, those of you who have made wudu with cold water, on the day of judgment, the water will become protection against the fire of hell. The cold water. Because it is very hard to make wudu with cold water. That is ijtihad that we have done. So, making wudu with cold water, first of all, it is the sunnah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it has preference over hot water. So let us not waste. If you keep using excessive water while making wudu, it is amongst the makruhat of wudu. You should not use that much water. Even the tap, take water and close it. Even if you have to do it 2-3 times, doesn't matter. Especially when making masah. While we are making masah, the tap is going on. That is strongly condemned. We should close the tap. Number 7, to use an insufficient quantity of water that prevents the fulfillment of sunnah. So wudu can be made from as little as a glass of water. In fact, it is the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ to minimize the water. But if you take less than minimum, then it is amongst the makruhat. You won't be able to wash the body parts as according to the sunnah of our Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do not use insufficient water or do not use excessive water. Both are amongst the makruhat, just the right amount. And it is not a rocket science to understand that what is the right amount. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala have given us brain to understand how easily we'll be able to wash our body parts. So we should use sometimes our common sense and not waste so much water. Nabi Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to turn away his face from the people who used to waste the ni'mats of Allah. So water is a great ni'mat of Allah. You will be able to survive without food for a longer time, but without water you won't be able to survive. So water is ni'mat of Allah and we must use it in a very good manner, responsible manner. To splash water onto your face, splashing water on your face is amongst the makruhat of salah. Taking water and just throwing on the face. It does not only amongst the makruhat of salah, but what happens, people standing behind you waiting for wudhu, your water goes on them as well. So splashing is not allowed. Take water and nicely put it on your face. To blow into the water while pouring it over your face. Some people have a habit of blowing water. When you have the water in your hand, doing that, maybe praying something and blowing on it, it doesn't have any existence. So do not blow on the water of wudu. To wash your face with only one hand, this is a custom of the Rawafid and the idol worshippers. When we wash our face with one hand, taking water and washing it like this, it is amongst the makruhat of salah. Use both hands. When you put water, use with both hands. So those who are idol worshippers, they use one hand to wash their parts. But we have been advised to use both of our hands. Huh? Of course. That is something very... If you don't have an arm, how will you use two arms? Huh? So if you don't have, then no choice. Or maybe if you have injury, you broke your arm. So a valid reason, we are not talking about someone who is medically excused. The person who is medically excused, nothing is necessary for him. Absolutely nothing. If a person is medically excused, if a doctor says if his body touches the water, then he's going to have skin infection, then even the wudu is not necessary for that person. He can just make tayammum and his wudu will still be valid. So we're not talking about those people who have valid reason. Those who are sound, healthy, we are talking about those. To wipe your head 3 times with unused water each time. So wiping the head is necessary once. So going over it again and again and again, as I said, the body parts we are supposed to wash, we wipe. The parts which we're supposed to wipe, we wash them. Sometimes we put a lot of water on the head. It is amongst the makruhat of wudu. So going over and just wiping it 1/4 of the head, that is sufficient and it validates your wudu. Number 16, to tightly close your eyes or lips. If any of these areas remain dried, then it will invalidate your wudu. So if you close your mouth strongly in such manner that after making wudu the lips remain dried, then it is actually invalidate your wudu. So do not hold it very tightly. Do not close your eyes so tightly that important part under your eye is missing. So everything in a moderate and proper way. These are the makruhat of wudu. So alhamdulillah, we have covered all the parts of the wudu when it comes to the faraid, sunnah, makruhat and mustahabat. We've covered all of them. 29 actions are amongst the mustahabat of wudu. That is the most amount. So that will make our wudu and strengthen our wudu. Nabi Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam have mentioned a beautiful hadith whereby he said that those people amongst my ummah who paid attention while they made wudu on the day of judgment, Allah tabarak wa ta'ala will forgive them just because they paid attention towards the rights of Allah. So it's a beautiful hadith, and wudu has a lot of significance. One very important mas'ala, and it is very critical before we complete it, the wounds, bleeding and normal wounds that we have. This is normally an issue. Many questions arises. So let us remove our doubt as far as the wounds are concerned. If there is a discharge of blood, pus or yellowish fluid that has the potential to flow onto any body part, that is fard to wash in wudu or ghusl, then your wudu will become invalid. So now let's learn that how and in which condition the ruling of wound is concerned. How will that happen? The condition is flowing, the flow of the blood. As far as blood is concerned, if it flows from your wound, that invalidates your wudu. Let's say if you have a wound, but the blood is just there, sitting there on top, but it's not flowing, that does not invalidate your wudu. So flowing is condition. If it does not flow, means your wudu is still valid. If it flows, then your wudu is invalid. That is the shortest way to understand your wound and the blood. And as far as your wound is concerned, you gone over it, and let's say that a droplet of blood that came up, but it's not flowing, and you are worried about it, then is your wudu still valid. But if that blood goes down and starts flowing in a good quantity, then it invalidates your wudu must be repeated. Even if a wound is large enough and fluid inside that wound is easily seen, but it does not flow, then your wudu is still valid. But if it flows, then your wudu is invalid. If you continue to clean any emerging blood from a wound and did not allow it to flow, then ask yourself whether the wiped quantity of blood was capable of flowing or not. You keep on wiping it, so it does not flow. But you wiped enough times. So now think about it, that if the wiped amount was flowable on your body part, then still invalidates your wudu. So make sure that the wound is treated properly. Nowadays we got a lot of method. We can put bandage around it, and there are a lot of things that we can do to stop the blood. So that is the simple way. Normally we get confused in this very easy masails. And as far as blood is concerned, keep in mind flowing is a must condition. If it flows, wudu is broken. If it does not, then Ruling on injections. When does it invalidate your wudu or not? An injection into the muscle will only invalidate your wudu if there is a discharge of blood that has potential to flow. So for example, you made wudu from home and you said, I'll go to the GP on the way, and after seeing GP I'll go to salah. Now you had to have an injection, and if the GP gave injection in your muscle and dischargeable amount of blood, the blood which discharged, the flowable amount, it came out, then your wudu is still invalid. You got to repeat it. Number 2, injections in veins usually require sucking your blood upwards. So when a doctor wants to inject in your vein, just to make sure that the needle has gone inside the vein, just to make sure, pulls the blood little bit out. So again the same rule applies. If the blood is flowable quantity which is pulled out, then your wudu is still invalid. You got to repeat the wudu. Similar condition applies to the injection of liquid glucose into the veins via a drip. So means if a doctor puts drip on your vein, glucose or whatever medicine that is going, so normally blood also comes out and it goes back into the bottle. So the rule is that it will still invalidate your wudu. You have to repeat your wudu. Means if enough blood goes into the bottle, because it takes time for you to have that medicine inside your body, and we normally see blood goes inside that bottle and then goes back into your body. So in that case your wudu is still invalid. Extracting blood from your body through a syringe for a blood test will also nullify your wudu, since it is a flowable amount. The extraction of blood, that is the very easy to understand, because extracting, they take full syringe out, so it's flowable amount. So in that case wudu will still be invalid. So most of the time injection in the muscle might not be a problem, but apart from that it invalidates your wudu. You have to repeat your wudu. Going to last and final part before we complete today's section, the tears and from an eye which has infection or normal tears. Tears that flow out due to an infection or an illness of the eye are impure and it nullifies the wudu. Bahari Shariat. Any sort of infection, any sort of pain in your eye, any sort of unintended tears which comes out from your eye, which is due to a pain or an infection, it nullifies your wudu.
Is that dependent on quantity, or can it be just one drop?
As long as it comes out from your eye. Again the same rule apply. It starts flowing a little bit, then your wudu is nullified. Paining, those infection tears, as long as it comes out from your eye, it nullifies, because it's impure. As long as it starts coming, and some people keep on wiping it like this, it still invalidates your wudu. The fluid discharged from a blind man's eye due to an illness is impure and it also nullifies the wudu. Means someone who had just an operation, eye operation, and a fluid comes out, still invalidates your wudu. So anything apart from tears invalidates your wudu. Tears means normal tears. Any painful or infectious tears, it does invalidate your wudu. Blisters and pimples. If you burst a blister and the fluid within it flowed, then your wudu will become invalid. So if you burst a blister and the fluid came out but you quickly wiped it, you still invalidates wudu. As long as it came out of the blister or the pimple, it invalidates the wudu. ठीक है? I pray may Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala grant all of us tawfiq and hidayah. There are countless more masalas, but I'm sure because you're not writing it, you will forget in a week. So these are the very important masails that we have discussed. There are many more masails, and inshallah al-aziz, if we pay attention to our wudu, it will just give us strongest reason for us to validate our wudu. I pray may Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala grant all of us tawfiq and hidayah.